Welcome to this new video, the third episode focused on Anne Frank in the context of the Holocaust.
In the first episode, we talked to you about and showed you Anne Frank's house in collaboration with the Anne Frank House Association in Amsterdam.
After having talked at length about the Frank family and their secret annex, today we want to take you to Westerbork, continuing not only the journey of the Franks, but also that of many other Dutch Jews.
Today we will show you images of the Westerbork concentration camp, known as a transit camp. Before we begin, we would like to ask for a simple favor. During 2022, we received over 4 million views here on the channel, but only about 14,000 of you subscribed. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future content about the Holocaust and much more.
It was August 4th, 1944, and the people who were hiding in the secret annex were tragically arrested by the Gestapo. For Anne Frank, her sister Margot, her father Otto, and her mother Edith. As with most of the Dutch Jews, their first stop was Westerbork. From there, they were then taken to Auschwitz on September 3rd, 1944. Then Anne and her sister Margot were then transferred to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camps in Germany the following month.
In 1933, Adolf Hitler came to absolute power in Germany, and from 1935, following the official enactment of the infamous Nuremberg laws, the initial persecutions of Jewish people truly began.
These laws were expressions of the racial theories on which Nazi ideology was based. According to these laws, marriages between German Jews and non-Jews were forbidden, and extramarital relations between them were also forbidden and criminalized. These laws laid the groundwork for future anti-Semitic measures, legally distinguishing Germans from Jews. Life became increasingly difficult for those who were not considered Aryan, especially for Jews, who were gradually marginalized from society. Many fled from Germany, while others stayed, hoping for a better future.
Adolf Hitler, the Führer and leader of the Nazi Party, conceived and formulated, thank you, all the fundamental basic principles of the Nazi Manifesto, incorporating them fully and indeed the entirety of them into his seminal autobiographical book Mein Kampf, which from then on effectively became the definitive Nazi Manifesto. The first official date of the persecution of the Jews is November 9th, 1938, also known as Kristallnacht or the Night of Broken Glass. During that fateful night, all of the synagogues and all of the Jewish shops, which were specifically and clearly marked as Jewish, were tragically set on fire.
From that moment on, many Jewish people tried to leave Germany. Many of them emigrated abroad, while others arrived here in the Netherlands, where the Frank family was already living at that time.
Before the official start of the Second World War, on September 1st, 1939, about 10,000 Jewish refugees bravely fled from Germany to the Netherlands. The initial 10,000 refugees crossed the Dutch border quite freely. After the actual outbreak of the Second World War, however, the other Jewish refugees subsequently entered illegally.
For the Dutch government, the situation was becoming unsustainable, which is why it became necessary to build a single camp for the refugees.
Here we are now in Westerbork, which is approximately about a 2-hour drive from the vibrant city of Amsterdam, where we previously took you inside Anne Frank's historic house, and we are located in the northern part of the Netherlands, very close to the German border indeed. The Dutch authorities officially proposed this specific area in the northern province of Drenthe to construct the concentration camp because it was widely considered an ideal and highly suitable location, and importantly not too close to the nearest town. This was precisely because the main goal was not to disturb the other citizens, the non-Jewish ones.
This is where we take our first real step into this story. The living and most evident part of the suffering endured by millions of people. Westerbork was considered only a transit camp. This was the starting point towards the extermination camps, from where thousands of Jews departed between 1942 and 1944.
The very first 22 refugees arrived and subsequently settled here on October 9, 1939, where they immediately began to work and establish themselves.
By the end of January 1940, the number of refugees had risen to 167. From February 1940, their numbers grew rapidly and significantly, and by the end of April, there were exactly 749 refugees in Westerbork. The prisoners were coming to know their new temporary home more and more as a real, oppressive concentration camp. Fear and anxiety about Hitler's terrible plans increased day by day, and grew even more when they fully realized that Westerbork was located very near the German border.
On May 10, 1940, German military troops invaded the Netherlands. Inside the camp, there was a specific person in charge who meticulously supervised everything that happened within its confines. But as Germany's aggressive advance and Hitler's mad, destructive project continued relentlessly, the approach within the camp became more and more that of a brutal concentration camp, and no longer that of a mere labor camp. In actual fact, the refugees here were closely escorted in their every single movement, but above all, what clearly and undeniably transformed the camp into an even more oppressive and restrictive phase was the significant introduction of the daily roll call, which was meticulously held twice a day, once in the morning and once again in the afternoon.
In 1942, during the Wannsee Conference, the decision was made to begin the planned extermination of the Jews, also known as the Final Solution. Thus, Westerbork was definitively designated as a forced transit camp for Jews.
With the brutal invasion of the Netherlands by Nazi Germany, this camp at Westerbork effectively became a crucial transit camp, and from 1942 to 1945, over 100,000 Jewish people were tragically and forcibly deported.
The first transports carrying 2,030 people left Westerbork for Auschwitz between July 15th and 16th, 1942. They arrived on July 17th. The Auschwitz records state that 449 people were killed upon their arrival. In the middle of the camp stands one of the train cars most commonly used to transport deportees to the concentration camps. And on 2 marble slabs, the following text taken from the Bible has been engraved. They watched our steps, preventing us from walking on our own roads. Our end is near, our days are numbered, our end has come. Inside the camp, we find monuments that bear witness to the brutal massacre carried out by the Nazis. One of these is the broken railway track. The rails have been twisted and turned toward the sky. It represents the despair and dismay over what was done to the Jewish people.
Here was the final tragic stop for many Dutch Jews. They were tragically brought here, in most cases, as indeed happened to Anne Frank and her entire family, because from this very location, they were then cruelly sent elsewhere to the numerous other concentration camps located across the whole of Europe. Between July of 1942 and September of 1944, almost every single Tuesday, trains regularly departed for Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, Birkenau and Treblinka. Trains much like the one we prominently see here, which stands as a poignant memorial in memory of the many, many trains that tragically departed for various other destinations across Europe.
In Berlin, the date, the destination and the number of deportees were decided. Meanwhile, the SS commander at Westerbork was only responsible for preparing the transport.
From Westerbork, over 107,000 people were deported, over 107,000 Jews, but only 5,000 or just over 5,000 managed to survive. Now we are moving to perhaps the most significant and poignant spot in the Westerbork camp, which you can clearly see just behind us right now.
The most moving feature here at Westerbork is represented by 102,000 red bricks arranged on a map of the Netherlands, symbolizing the 102,000 victims, people who were deported from the camp and never returned.
This is indeed the most profoundly significant spot, because here we can clearly see with our very own eyes and truly imagine that each individual stone profoundly represents a person who tragically never returned home. Above all, it deeply honors the ancient Jewish tradition, where instead of beautiful flowers, a simple red stone is reverently left on the graves of the deceased, as is precisely the case here. On each and every stone, there is also a distinct Star of David for every Jewish person who tragically lost their precious life, and a flickering flame for every Roma deportee who sadly perished.
On April 12, 1945, it was fully liberated, along with all the people who had still not yet indeed been deported.
At the end of the Second World War, SS guards and citizens suspected of collaborating were imprisoned here, specifically those who collaborated briefly with the Nazis.
There were still 850 Jews living in the camp, and coexistence was anything but peaceful. In the first 4 months, there were more than 80 murders. This concludes our visit to Westerbork.
This is just one of the many significant stops marked by the Holocaust. Subscribe to the channel for the next historical stops.